Hello, hello. We are hopping on live for day 2 of Heal Your Business. We're going to wait some moments for people to arrive, but thought I'd say hello so you're not watching nothing.
Yeah, if you're catching us on the replay, hang tight. We'll get started in just a couple minutes.
Hey, Christina Marie. Happy to see you here. It's been a month or so. Yeah, if you're hopping on, say hi, say where you're tuning in from in the world. Love to see where everybody's at geographically.
I'm always curious too what people's setup is, since a lot of us are on our computers and in our homes. You'll see as I'm in these spaces, I'm often shifting where I am. Sometimes I'm up in my bedroom. Today I'm in my healing room. This is where I do my online yoga classes and my one-on-one healing sessions. And I've been to Phoenix's beautiful space. She's got a beautiful space there. So can let us know where you are in the world and where you are in your space too. And I even get curious about what people like to sit on. You know, is it a yoga ball or a chair or the floor? Today I'm kneeling and with a pillow underneath me. And you know, it's important to take care of our bodies when we are sitting and being on the computer. So if there's a conversation around that, I'm here for it.
I have this really cool teal antique chair that I borrowed from a friend that I'm using. It's very cozy. Christina Marie is in her bed in her room on her phone, still typing them.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to pull up my Facebook so I can see the comments too.
I'm trying to get my headphones right so they don't fall out. We're not there yet.
So I have someone actually asking about the Facebook Live on my Facebook. I'm going to send her the link.
At this point, send her the link to the Facebook group so she can hop onto the live.
Right. Great. Christina Marie in my room, bed, phone. Yeah, now I can see the comments. And let me see if I can send this message to Aya. And yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started and people can kind of tune in as they do. We introduced ourselves a little bit on the last call, but if there are people watching this call that are new, we can do a little quick introductions on kind of who we are and why we're here, and I'll share a little bit about what I'm here to share. So my name is Venus, and I have been an entrepreneur for most of my life. My parents would tell a story of me painting seashells and walking around door to door trying to sell them. And I would say it can be a jewelry holder or a soap holder or an ashtray. I was a child of the 80s. And I ended up going to school for business and was in the corporate world for about 5 years before I stepped away and really just started focusing on how can I make money, not how can I get a job. And so that was a huge shift for me in the beginning of my adult entrepreneurial journey. And it's now been 10 years since I first started teaching yoga. And that was kind of the beginning of it all for me, was teaching yoga, leading movement classes. I loved doing that. I loved using my body and I loved being around people. You know, Phoenix and I play off of each other that she's like the 6-figure business coach. She's got this online blueprint and I'm like the in-person person. And so being in front of people and teaching yoga was really natural to me, but I quickly found out that it was unsustainable. financially for me to do it, and physically. It got to a point where I was like, okay, how many miles am I going to drive on my car to take one more class? You know, how much am I going to get paid? How much time am I putting into prepping and planning? And how long am I going to stay after class talking to people about their aches and pains? And how many extra calories am I going to have to consume to teach one more yoga class, right? And so it really was unsustainable on like a financial level, an energetic level, and actually on a physical level for me. And so I started brainstorming ways to grow from there. You know, you grow where you're planted. And what I'll be sharing about today is what has worked for me over the years. I've learned a lot from my dad, who's a really successful businessman and runs associations. So he's all about creating community, and just received a lot through osmosis from him. So shout out to my dad, Ken Doyle. Thank you for your expertise. I actually have a business call with him after this call to ask him some questions about a new business that I'm starting with some friends. So yeah, that's kind of who I am and what brought me here. And I'll be leading us through a little acronym. I was inspired by Phoenix Year acronym MAGIC. That's what we did yesterday. And so I've got my own version of that. I'd love for Phoenix for you to tell us about yourself, because we'll have different people on this call from yesterday, and maybe tell them a little bit about what you taught yesterday so they can tune in and we can go from there.
Totally. Phoenix, HSP, highly sensitive person, 6-figure business coach. And I like to share about that. You know, I got my beginnings in vibrational healing through the Healing Touch program. I've been studying the esoteric and vibrational everything for the last decade. And yeah, because of my sensitivity, it hasn't made sense to me to work a normal 9-to-5 job that would be quite detrimental to how I operate with energy levels. Also, you know, I don't work well for other people. So I very much paved my own way in business. I was just waiting it. I had a lot of healing trainings, you know, very skillful as a young psychic, intuitive, and hands-on energy healer. But I had zero business sense when I started out, so I've had to develop it over time over the last decade. And so I've made a point of studying it, of training, of getting coaching, investing in myself and my business so that I could take my healing to the world. And now I love working with healers, shamanic types, spiritual business leaders, or like we're using the word wannabe healers a lot right now. So those people that are like, hey, I have these own gifts and maybe I want to bridge the gap. And so they can't hear me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
That's a little bit better.
It's because these things are falling out of my ears today. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. I can also, actually, I don't think
It's a lot better now that you adjusted those. Yeah.
I don't know why a millimeter would make that much difference, but we'll take it. Yeah. Let me know if it needs to be adjusted again. Happy to make sure that you can hear. So yeah, for me, learning business was a necessity if I wanted to be an effective healer. And now it's my passion to really help healers, spiritual types thrive in the world of matter and money. And so for me, matter represents the 3D, the physical realms, but it also represents the things that matter to our heart, relationships, money, health, you know, all of these things that might be important to someone, becoming really well integrated in how we're showing up and existing in the world. So, and I'm currently walking a lot of people through their dark days of the soul, you know. So I saw somebody post something today that I really liked. That was just like, I can't, you know, hold your hand and pick you up, but I can help you crumble. I can help you fall apart. And you know, reorient from that place. And I really feel like the shadow work right now and the falling apart and the dark day of the soul is where my magic is, having walked through so many myself. So yeah, for those people who are struggling, I like working with people who are struggling.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've helped me in times that I was struggling, and that's a big part of your magic. So thank you for putting that out there to the world. I have struggled many times in my life. And one of the biggest ones, as I mentioned before, was finally getting the career that I dreamed of and finding out that I couldn't keep myself fed with just teaching yoga classes. You know, I made some notes today, so forgive me if I'm looking down. Let's see. Well, I'll just jump right into it. You know, my process has been really learning as I go. It's been figuring out what works for other people, trusting my intuition, seeing what works for me, talking with my dad. And so when I sat down to write it all out, like what do I want to share? What are the big things that have worked for me? I played around with words and came up with an acronym, and it's your wares. And we think of wares, it's like housewares, kitchenwares. And that is like, what do you have that you can use as a tool? What do you have that you can sell? If you were going to put things up on a shelf, what would it be? What would it be that you have that someone else might want? And so I'll just kind of go through these one at a time, and I'm here to like answer any questions. I'd love to know, for those of you that are on the call, what is your current business that you have that you would like to be adding on to? Because for me, it was teaching yoga, and that's what I wanted to add on to it. But I'd love to see for you what it is that you are doing currently and what you would like to add on to. And maybe Phoenix, you can let me know if someone responds there. So the first one is W, and it's workshops. And this is something that Phoenix and I are doing right now. This is an online business workshop. And any of these things, any of these wares can be done online or in person. Because the idea is that once you have a customer, you really want to keep them and see if there's a way, or client, you know, see if there's a way that you can serve them more deeply. See if there's a way that you can help them to integrate even more the magic that they're coming to you for. Because these people, if they're showing up to your classes, if they're showing up in your programs, if they're showing up in your field, they want to be around you, and they want to be in your energy, and they want what you have to give. So it's about opening your mind and seeing, what else can I give to the people that are currently already in my field? And so workshops are a really great way to go deeper, and to go deeper into your area of expertise, whatever it is that you're teaching, whether it's a yoga workshop, an online business workshop. I've taught Thai massage for couples workshops. There's a lot of different ways that you can go with this, but it's a way for people who are already interested in what you have, for them to go just one step deeper into your content, or even half a step deeper. And really, it's a chance for them to get to know you deeper, but it's also a chance for you to get to know them more deeply. And that's something that I really like to share with people, is really the idea with this is that we're nurturing these connections and building these connections so that you're really building a community, and that these are people that are going to stick with you for a long time, and you're going to stick with them. And, you know, for the workshops, they can be free or they can be paid. And I've done both. It's really nice to offer free content to people, especially if you are wanting to draw in a new audience for an existing offer. But if you already have people that are coming to you and they're paying you for your services, you don't necessarily need to come up with a free offer for them, because they're already like in your pipeline. And that's where you could do, if you're teaching a yoga class where people are used to paying, you know, $15 or $20 for a yoga class, you can do a workshop that's 50 or 75 or 100, depending on how long it is. And that is a way for you to, yes, you can make some money, but what I always encourage people to do is to not think of it as a moneymaker, because when you have that energy of like, oh, I really need to get 20 people up or it's not going to work, people can feel that. That creates a little bit of scarcity and contraction. And so I like to lead these workshops from a place of, you know what, I would pay $100, I would pay $500, I would pay $1,000 for advertising, right? Or I could invest that in a venue and a space and some marketing. and I'm going to spend the same amount of money creating a workshop as I would just simply placing an ad. But I'm going to just have more of that high touch opportunity to connect with people. And so I see it as like, I would do this for free, but I might get paid a little bit. And just taking the focus off of that is really what helps foster that deepening, because I really do see the workshops as a way to go deeper.
Yeah, I want to interject right
Yeah.
here because just tying it to yesterday's conversation with spiritual assets and devotion, you really touched on both of those pieces, right? Workshops and facilitation is a spiritual asset. I know for me, I love to teach. When I'm teaching, even if 5 people are there, I'm so happy. I'm in my dharma. I like it. It's something that really illuminates me. So therefore, it's a spiritual asset for me. And it's important for me to try and teach as much as possible. But then the devotional piece, like Venus was saying, if you have your eye or mind on a money prize or some specific type of outcome, chances are you are going to be disappointed because that's not how the flow of life is. But when you're showing up in devotion, even if one person comes to your event, right, you get to go so deep with them and you could potentially make a lifelong connection, a lifelong client by taking that time and just showing up with your heart and your offering. So devotion and spiritual assets, just tying it into yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. So the next step in the process is A, and I put accessories. Sometimes I call this retail, but I wanted it to fit in a nice little acronym. But accessories I really like because there's a couple of different ways that I have approached this. And one is like, what are the tools that I am currently using? What do I love in my life? And just starting there. I've been using these Tesla wands on my clients, and it's like an electric current that you can run for skin care and also for wound healing and intramuscular healing. I use my singing bowls all the time. I used to have one that I brought with me every single yoga class. We would end with the singing bowl. I use yoni eggs in my own personal spiritual practice. And so what are the accessories? What are the tools that you're already using that you maybe have never even told your clients or your customers about? Maybe you're not up there in your class or on your coaching call talking about all these different amazing products that you use for your personal health. But if you do at least have a list on paper, on your computer, in your mind, you can start to weave that in for people. You can start to tell people about these accessories that you really love and why they might like them. And I do encourage people to have a way to do the selling of these online and to also have some on stock. Like if you have the ability to purchase a few, especially if you're an in-person person and you're doing events and you're getting in front of people and you're teaching classes and you're teaching workshops, having a little merch booth is awesome. People are already there, they're in the door, they're a captive audience, and more likely than not, these are people that love being around you, they love what you have to offer, and they want to support you. I had a friend one call me and say, I want to come over to your house and get one of your yoni eggs. It was a man that I had worked at a restaurant with years ago and just kind of followed my journey on social media. And when he showed up to get this yoni egg, I said, who is it for? And he said, well, me. And I'm like, oh, do you know what a yoni egg is? And he said, no, I just wanted to buy something from you. And so we talked a little bit and I told him it could be a beautiful decoration if that's what he felt called. He said, I don't know if that's my cup of tea. I said, maybe cacao is your cup of tea, and sold him cacao and taught him how to make cacao instead of selling him a yoni egg that he didn't need. But that's how it is. Like people, they want to come to you, they want to support you. So giving them an opportunity. I like to work in a lot of price ranges with what it is that I'm offering as accessories. I like to have even, a $12 pack of copal incense that I got from Mexico because it smells so good, and I burn it at all my events and people say, what is that? And if they want to support, they can spend $12, ranging all the way up to a couple $100s for a singing bowl. And you can really take this the sky is the limit here. I know that some people on these calls, they sell amazing healing products into the tens of thousands of dollars range, and they're getting commissions on those. And so think about what it is that is already in your field that you can add on. And then there's this other piece that you can ask yourself this question, you know, do you want to create things to sell, or do you want to resell things? And this is when I really start thinking about accessories. I have 8 planets ruled by Venus in my chart. So I love also bringing jewelry and earrings and necklaces and things like that to the table. And so I get to ask myself, do I want to create headdresses or hats or feathered earrings? Or do I want to find an artist that I love, whether it's on my travels internationally or someone locally? Do I want to find someone else who's already making something and then resell those items? So those are 2 directions that you can go when you're exploring this. And then, you know, if it's something that you want to create, make sure that you are keeping track of your hours, yes, so that you can charge what you would like to receive for your time. Also keep in mind that you're going to get faster as you go along. So if you're making some elaborate piece the first time and it takes you a week to make it, you might not be charging for a week's worth of work on that first one. But if this is something that you love to do as you go, you can play around with your price point to make sure you're covering your materials and your time at the rate that you would really like to receive for it. And that's where I tend to swing in the direction of reselling, because I don't have a lot of time to create in the way that I would like. I would rather take my time and let it take a couple of weeks and have it be just for me or for as a gift for a friend, rather than kind of pumping them out. So some rules of thumb for if you are going to be selling other people's items is you always want to talk to them about a wholesale price or a bulk discount. And that's something that I do when I'm traveling internationally quite often. Like my rule of thumb is if I love it, I will buy all of them. I found a rose oil that I just absolutely loved, and it was super expensive. You know, rose oil is expensive. I've been exploring rose oil for years, Venus codes, right? And I found one that it was the best smelling rose I've ever smelled. It had a psychedelic effect on me. And the man that was selling it in Mexico is a medicine man, and he actually trades medicine with different people, including me. I bring him Osha from Colorado and get Chilquage from Mexico, different herbs. And so he had ended up with this Bulgarian rose oil, and he gets it in a big jar, puts it in little jars. And it was this one batch that to me just smelled the best. And he had 26 bottles. And so I bought them all. And I was in a place financially that I could do that, you know, knowing I sell them for $150 a piece, which is about standard. And it, you know, that's a high-end item in my merch booth. And so it might take me a handful of years to sell them all, but I love having them and I love sharing them. And for the people that feel that resonance, you know, they're super excited to receive that. And so that leads to kind of a fun way to play if you are an international traveler, is learning to bargain in other languages. I really love the shopping experience and the bargaining experience that is commonplace in many countries, not so much here in the US. And so I play it up and I have a lot of fun with it. And I work deals with the vendors and I ask them if they have anything in the back. And I've gotten some really cool things that way. So have fun, play with it. And then, you know, I'm going to give you a little insider's tip that I actually feel like vulnerable sharing, because I think a lot of people do wonder, like, is there a judgment around like upselling and reselling items? And so there can be shame, there can be fear of judgment. But there is a lot more work that goes into this. I mean, I'm carrying suitcases in and out of events all the time. If you're taking the time to put it on a website, I like to write up a blurb about what is cacao, how does it heal your body, how do you make it, make a video. Like, there's a lot of work that can go into reselling items. And so I want you to feel empowered to upcharge. You're not going to sell these items for exactly what you bought them for. You're buying them at a discounted price, and you're also paying yourself for getting it out there. And so the rule of thumb that I learned, and I learned this because I happened to be working at a liquor store and a wine bar at the exact same time when I was in college. And so I could really see what is retail, what is wholesale pricing, and I started to ask some questions about that. And what the kind of rule of thumb and the standard is you want to mark it up 3 times. There are some times when I just can't do that. It prices it out of the market. It's no longer feasible for my client. In that case, I might just decide on a flat fee. I'd like to make $10 on top of everyone I sell because I really want people to have this. I want to make $50 on top of everyone I sell, or 100, whatever your scale is. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, is how important it is to attune to the people that are showing up to your classes, that are showing up to your field, and attuning to the people that you're calling in, because you want to make sure, yes, there are these rules of thumbs for how you can price things, but you also want to make sure that you are offering things that they actually want and at a price that they feel excited about. So if anybody has any questions about these first 2 sections, Phoenix, if you have any commentary, I'm looking at the comments. Teresa says, it truly is the best. Do you have any of the rose available, or the cacao essential oil? So this just shows, if you do a free offering, if you talk about your gifts, people are going to tune in. They're going to be excited what you're excited about. Yes, Teresa, I will have all the things for you when we do our bodywork trade this weekend.
And I also want more rose if it's available.
Yes, yes.
I'm still nursing my bottle that you gave me for my birthday. I'm just like, slowly, but I love it.
Yes. Amazing. So yeah, okay. One more thing I wanted to touch on for the accessories is 3 tricks that I learned along the way that I'm going to share with you here. One is you can pre-sale items. The first time that I went to Guatemala and I found these beautiful, like golden rainbow obsidian yoni eggs, I just took a picture of them in the store, said, I just found the most amazing golden obsidian yoni eggs. Does anybody want one? Here's the price. You can Venmo me. And I actually sold all of them before I bought them. And so a lot of people don't think about things this way, but especially if you're just getting started, you can play the game in that way. And that's a fun way to make sure that your costs are covered if you don't necessarily have the capital to buy them all. Another one is add-ons. So what can you add on to what you are currently selling? For example, I sell 7 metal Tibetan singing bowls. And so I will sometimes add on like a beautiful cushion for them to go on. It's an extra $12 or something, but just having those little add-ons for the yoni eggs, for the necklaces, beautiful Guatemalan bags to put them in. What are some add-ons that you could have for the items that you're already starting to build into your listings, right? And then also subscriptions. This is something that I am new to, but I have been really feeling the call to incorporate. And so one of my projects is called The Moon Magic, and I record meditations from beautiful vortexes and forests and caves and rivers all around the world, so that people can tune in to the frequencies of Mother Nature while also tuning in with themselves. And so I've been doing my subscription service for free. That's, my dad always said, it's the oldest trick in the book when I was a teenager and I would want something, but Dad, it's free. I said, it's the oldest trick in the book. The phone companies do it, the drug dealers do it. They give it to you for, Venmo did it, they give it to you for free, and then they charge it up. So don't feel shy about doing that. It is a strategy, but I'm all about transparency and putting it out there. And so, yeah, you can do your subscriptions for free, and then you can build into a subscription service, or you can start off right off the bat and building out a subscription service. But I would include that as accessories to what you're already offering.
I'm just going to pause there. We had a
Yeah.
handful of people hop on. So I just want to say welcome if you're hopping on. And, we love engagement and we love questions. This is about heal your business. So if you have some part of your business that needs healing that you want us to address live on the call, just type it into the comments and let us know that you're here, because I can see that you're here. Yeah, and what kind of business that you're working with. Tonight we're featuring Venus. And also for those that are catching the replay, we will still do some coaching with you if you type #replay into the comments so that we know that you're watching the replay. And if you have a business question, we will reach out personally and answer it. So don't feel like you can't still participate if you're watching the replay. I forgot to say that at the beginning.
Yeah. And just to catch you up with where we are, so far I've been talking about ways to add on to the services that you're already offering. One is workshops. We're in a workshop right now. 2 is accessories. That's everything from retail to subscription services. And before I go on to the next, I would love to know I'd love to know what it is that you're currently offering. And if anything has kind of tickled your brain as something that excited you about adding on. And Phoenix, I don't have the ability to see the comments. So if you wouldn't mind letting me know, I'll pause after this next section.
Totally.
What's that?
Oh, I said totally, I'll do that.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so the next one, I'm going over this acronym W.A.R.E.S. What are your W.A.R.E.S? And this is retreats. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. When I first started teaching yoga, this was actually the first thing that I added in. I would actually recommend going kind of in this order. I ordered it in this way, like starting with some workshops, getting accessories in your workshops. And then when you do a retreat, it's essentially a series of workshops, and you'll also have your accessories there. So you kind of already have the groundwork put in, and you've already built that rapport with people through the workshops. You've gone a little bit deeper than just a class or being available to them online. And now they're ready to spend the weekend or the week with you. So one of the things that this is like one of the biggest things that I coach people on. A lot of my coaching is in the shamanic realms and in the visualization realms. And so the first thing you want to do when you're planning, the first thing I do when I'm planning a retreat is I close my eyes and I just visualize it. I ask spirit to give me a vision of the retreat, of what is going to happen, what wants to come through, who is going to be there, where it's going to be, when it's going to be. And my retreats are all shamanically, divinely guided. And I will often plan something on a day and not realize until later, like I'm hosting a sacred sensual Halloween underworld event in 3 weeks here in Denver. And I planned it. And then I found out that actually in the cycle of Venus in the sky, my underworld party happens 2 days after Venus enters the underworld. And so if you open yourself up to receive this divine guidance, it is going to be so much more amazing and divine and aligned than you could ever imagine. So trusting that. And it's interesting because I actually take a lot of these like free coaching webinars and listen to other people's advice. And when people say the word strategy, I have like a little bit of a contraction, like it feels really heady to talk about a strategy. But when I was writing down what I wanted to share with you, I realized that what I'm doing intuitively, if I put it on paper, then it becomes a strategy. So there really is nothing wrong with strategy. It's just a way to verbalize something that is happening intuitively. And Phoenix is really good at this. She's like, I figured it out. I'm putting it into the system. I'm giving it to you. And so I will call it a strategy, but it's something that I just did intuitively from the beginning with visualizing the retreats and exactly how they were going to go. And it is so magical and such a good business move to follow up on that. Call the person, send them a message, say, I did a meditation about this retreat that I'm going to do in 6 months, and I haven't even started putting pen to paper yet, but your face was in my vision, and I think you're going to be there with me. And that is that like deep one-on-one, going deeper with people connection that is available to you. If that is even more the purpose, then I need 20 people to cover my costs. That's a lot harder for spirit to answer the call for you. Let's see.
Yeah, and that totally happened with the last round of Rainbow Warrior, where I had hung out with one of my former medicine trainees, and her face just appeared, when I was in the creation phase of Rainbow Warrior. And so I saw her next and I said, I have something for you. And at the time she was like, no, no, like maybe later. But sure enough, like a month or so before we started, she hopped in and was like, it is for me now. I was like, I know, I created it for you.
Yeah.
Did.
And that's something that some of the coaches that I follow recommend. They've actually recommend to like selling your product to one person that you visualize. My process is a little bit different. I get a full vision and then reach out to the individuals. So while this is a strategy, because I'm gifting you what has worked for me, take it all in, keep what feels resonant, let go of what doesn't, create some space to see like what intuitively is coming in for you just in these areas as well. So one of the things that I wrote down to share is that people will grow with you. So when I first started doing my retreats, they were local retreats. They were like $333 per. I let a bunch of people camp in a yurt together at the hot springs. And as we grew, I was able to offer larger events in more elaborate places at higher price points. But just let yourself start where you are. And where you are might be like $2,500. That's my like easy in for people, right? So everybody has their own version of the scale, but let yourself start where you are and then let your audience grow with you. Okay, so this is one of my favorite ones. The entire time that I have been planning retreats and parties, if someone calls me and says, I want to be a part of it, I want to offer my gifts, my answer is yes. I used to like to watch Yes Man once a year just to refresh my stoke on the saying yes. But that's really important. And so the way I wrote it down here is like call in your cohorts and say yes. Because as someone who has done it, you do not want to be holding space every moment that you're awake throughout your entire retreat. That is also not sustainable. So if there is someone else, especially if you are the world's best yoga teacher, bring in someone else to teach a couple yoga classes. That might be an edge, but I love doing it. I brought in a mistress of ceremonies to do opening ceremony at my last party that I threw. But I get flown around the world to do opening ceremonies at parties. Why would I fly someone else in? Because I saw a vision of her doing it and it was amazing. And you can create a platform for other people to share. It can also be a strategy. It can work to your advantage. You get to manage your time and your energy a little bit more efficiently while you're there. You get to receive, which is part of efficiency in both giving and receiving, but you also get to cross-pollinate. For me, when I do events, when I do retreats, being able to promote other people on my social media and seeing them promote me. How many times have you seen someone on social media promoting something with someone else and you're like, oh, that person's cool. Who is this that they're tagged in this thing, and click on it and you automatically are interested. So think of it as a way to cross-pollinate and to nurture yourself. It's not no one's taking anything away from you if you invite them to collaborate on your project. They're actually adding on, and that's something that I've had to coach people through a lot. So sit with that. Let's see, any feedback, any questions that we have so far?
Not any that have currently been typed into the comments, but if you have a question, now's the perfect time to ask. And I will
Yeah.
just say, two things about events. Events are really how I got my exposure to Venus in the beginning. I actually participated. She was doing this really cool Howl at the Moon monthly gathering that she opened to the community to hold and also to get paid from. So she was profit sharing the money from the event for the people that were saying, hey, I'm supposed to be there and this is the gift that I'm bringing. So I brought healing to that event. It was my first event back in Colorado after a sabbatical, and it was so fun. And so that was exposure number one. And exposure number two, which is why she's in Rainbow Warrior, is another event that she was facilitating. She was facilitating for an entire group and talking about energy in the way that I like to be talked to about energy. And there was a ding, ding, ding that just lit up my system in that moment. And so when it came that Yeah, originally I invited her partner to come chef, and he was my chef, and he invited Venus. He was like, I want her to come to support me. And when I really tuned into the reality, I was like, Venus isn't that kind of support. Like, she has a bigger role here. And he's no longer a part of Rainbow Warrior except to be our support. But Venus was, she just was. There was a natural opening, and the compliment that she added to it, it just was such a yes. And so that was an instance, I met her through her events, and there was such strong resonance that then she became a part of something that I created and dreamed up, and now we're weaving together. So it can happen anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, events are such a beautiful way, because if you're in this space, if you're in this Heal Your Business space, if you're in the Rainbow Warrior space, you are the type of person, I know that you are also the type of person that people are benefiting just from being in your presence, whether you're a coach or a yoga teacher or you're an entrepreneur in some other way. A lot of it has to do with your energy and your presence. And so giving people a chance to feel you is the best way that I have found to build those long-term relationships. And then once you have that relationship, how can you keep adding new stuff? Going back to accessories for a moment, coming up with some new items every season. I've been slacking in that a little bit, but that's actually a really good way to just keep that connection with people. And this was a perfect segue, Phoenix, with you talking about meeting me at an event, because the next one is E, and that's events. And so I like to think of events in two ways. One is events that other people are putting on, and the other is events that I can put on. So if the first thing you can do is just look around and say, what is already happening around me? And how can you plug in? And so this can be, for example, I spent the past 10 years teaching yoga at music festivals. And that was a way for me to plug in to an already existing community and give a larger audience a taste of what it feels like to be with me. That was a really comfortable space for me. Something else that I like to encourage people to do is to get involved in events that are maybe outside of your comfort zone. So for a while I was going to, I was a nanny on the side when I first started teaching yoga, and I was going to like nanny and mom events. And I was driving a lot of business through going into the space that actually felt a little bit uncomfortable to me, but I knew that that was a new community that I could serve, that I could be of service to them, that they would benefit from what it was that I was sharing. And I had all of these private yoga clients all around this one neighborhood because I started going to these events. So what is already happening? How can you plug in, seek out new communities? And then outside of that, if you do want to start creating your own event, the first thing that I would have you ask yourself is, what is not happening that you wish was happening? Because if it does not exist, it is there for you to create. So my sacred sensual events that I throw are my hybrid version of a psychedelic dance party and a sacred temple space. And I just couldn't find anything out there like that. And so I created it. And you can do that too. So what is it that you wish was happening? How can you create that? I feel like that's about all I even want to say on events, because I could teach a whole course just on that. But I will throw out some additional ideas, because at this point, you're in front of people offering classes, workshops, you have accessories, maybe you have 1 or 2 retreats per year. You're starting to weave in some events, and you already have all of these tools. So all these little opportunities for you to keep plugging in, these are going to be such a great way for you to continue growing. So festivals, meetups, crafts fairs, online events, community gatherings, pop-ups, and parties. And the one thing that I wanted to say is, you are always your brand. Especially if you are in the space and you are a spiritual entrepreneur, you are always your brand. And so, like Phoenix was saying, if you're at a party and you drop in deep with someone, just know that they are, yes, they are a new friend, but they are also a new customer or client, and that if you don't tell them what you do, they can't buy it from you. And so just knowing that if you are just popping into a meetup to meet one of your friends and someone asks you what you do, this is your chance to actually sell. If they ask you what you do, they want to know. And so make sure that you've got your elevator pitch, make sure you've got it down. And that's something that Phoenix and I will work with you on in the Rainbow Warrior program, because that's one of the most important pieces. And then, yeah, the W.A.R.E.S, the letter S is for services. And this is a big one for me. So I put it at the end because that's where it really fit. But services are something that I did add on pretty soon after I started teaching yoga. And, you know, a list of different services that you could potentially add in are massage, coaching, oracle or astrology readings, energy healings, private instruction. I put in fairy hair because that was a fun side gig that I did for a while, where these women trained me how to put like sparkles in people's hair. And it was like, I would get invited to a cool, like downtown Denver, like alternative pop-up event. And I would do fairy hair, and they would sit in the chair and I'd tie some beautiful strings in their hair and then give them a blessing with my rose oil and my fan and my meditation voice. And it was like, I had 5 minutes with them, but I was able to give them this experience that really left them wanting more. And I also made decent money doing that. And so decent side money, right? And so the sky is the limit in terms of what services you would like to offer. Another story about fairy hair is that, you know, as a yoga teacher, I was struggling with the pay and also with just the cost. Even when I tried to do my own classes, it's like people were willing to pay back then like $12 for a yoga class, right? But they would be willing to stay for 15 minutes and get $60 worth of fairy hair put in their hair. And so it really showed me that people want the one-on-one time with you. And so giving them different ways to have that, whether it is giving them a 10-minute oracle reading, or for me, the bodywork sessions that I offer are 3 hours long and include coaching and body work. Or can you do a half or full day immersion or a private retreat? You know, keeping in mind that concept that the people that you attract, they will grow with you. So always offering, you don't have to do all of this at one time. I would not recommend going out and starting massage and coaching and energy healing and one-on-one retreats. It's like, start with one, get people into that mode with you, and then come up with what is the next level that I can take my clients through in their transformation and their healing, and then create your new offers from there. One of the things I wanted to talk about in services is how to price your services, because this is something that I work a lot with my one-on-one clients with. And so my motto is kind of start slow and grow. Because one of the things that I see in the clients that I've coached is that oftentimes they're already burnt out and overworked. And so they really want to jump and make this huge jump and just and charge huge price points. This was me. And then I wasn't actually getting enough clients at that huge price point. And so then I felt like I made the wrong choice. I should have kept teaching 20 yoga classes a week, you know, and it was like, I second guessed myself. So when I scaled back a little bit and started slow and really started offering things at a price point that made sense for me, something that I was willing to pay for that service from someone else, that was an important thing in my integrity that really shifted things. And then once I got a few clients in that price range, I felt more confident. And then I had some disposable income to get a massage from someone else. And then I was able to grow and grow and grow. And so with the services, you can take your clients on a lifelong journey with you. if you pace with them and align to them and really feel into where they are at, where you are at, and where you want to go together. Another tip that has just worked for me over the years, and I've seen it work for a lot of other people, is make sure that you are investing in other practitioners. If you are offering massage, make sure you receive massages. If you are offering coaching, make sure you receive coaching. If you are offering oracle readings, make sure you receive oracle readings. This is going to help you be a better blank, whatever it is that you're doing. And it's also going to get the wheels turning in the cycle of the universe. And you will see, I made a huge leap a few years ago when I made a big purchase. It was like $3,000 or something. And it was just an amount that I never thought I would have ever spent on, and once I spent the $3,000 on the program, then I was able to charge $3,000 for a program or a retreat. And then I quantum leaped into the 20 grand range. The next program that I got for myself was 20 grand, but I had to take that little mini step in between. And then that was when I was able to start charging those higher tickets to other people, was once I had experienced the benefit of that. Another thing that like a tip or trick is special deals are really, really helpful. This is something a lot of the people that I coach are body workers. And so one of the things I always encourage them to do is to have a time frame. If they have a special deal that they're offering, they're giving a discount for booking a pack of 10. The deal is if you book it within 24 hours of the session. And even now, that's what I have been working with people on. But now that I think of it, it's like, if you book it before you leave today, is what I would recommend. If you are doing one-on-one in-person sessions and you're doing special deals, I would highly recommend just letting them know that the deal, this extra special deal is if you book it before you leave today. And then you're going to know the people that are really serious, and that's getting people to say yes while they're still in your presence and they're still in the vibe before they go back to their other life. That's a key point with doing in-person sales for your services. Also, find a way to have an easy way for people to schedule with you. Using Calendly, there's a bunch of different apps that you can use. And also a customer management system. And a lot of these are integrated now. And that's where, I love it when I make an appointment with my hairdresser, because I do just call and like book it with her. I could probably go on there, but I like talking with her. And then when I get off the phone, she puts it in immediately. It sends me a reminder. It goes into my Google Calendar, and then it sends me a reminder the day before, and it's all automated. And you could take it to the next level too, especially if you were in the zone of services, where if you do have a customer management system, you can program it to send a message to your customers a week after their most recent appointment, or 4 weeks, or whatever you program it to. But that just kind of takes the pressure off you if you're able to automate your return customers. Another thing I wanted to touch on was services, because this is something that I have experienced, is like when to raise your prices, how to raise your prices. And the rule of thumb for me is raise your prices if you're feeling burnt out, because that is the number one telltale sign that you are not receiving as much as you feel that you are giving, right? So as soon as you feel burnt out, stop, take a step back. It's probably time to raise your prices. I usually do small increments every 6 to 18 months. And that way it's not a huge shock to my client system. I have built my bodywork sessions up from $111 to $300 a session in small increments. And I've kept many customers along the way because they have also been increasing their income with inflation and just their additional skills and job responsibilities and everything else. So, that really is the underlying message here, is that people are going to grow with you. Let's see. Yeah, and just I'm going to keep drilling it in this attunement. It's really important to attune to your clients, to yourself, to the economy, um, because you could make a strategy and make a system and put it on paper and implement the whole thing, and it still might not work if there is something happening in the world that is causing it to be maybe not the best time to raise your prices. Or you could miss out on a golden opportunity if there's something happening where this is the perfect time for you to raise your prices. Everybody just got a stimulus check. Maybe now's the time to put out a program, right? So attune to your customers, your clients, attune to yourself, and attune to the energies of the collective. And then another tip, this is something that I gave a coaching client recently, is he was really having a hard time marketing his services because he felt like the market is saturated and everyone does what I do, and I don't even know people. I just moved back here, all these reasons. And so I gave him some homework and I told him to write down 10 reasons someone would choose you out of a lineup. And, you know, that is the work. The work is, especially when you're in the realm of services, because that is intimate. You are selling yourself when you are providing a service. You are selling access to you, to your energy. And that is why, maybe that's why it's last on my list, even though it was one of the first things I added in, because once you have built the relationships through the workshops and you have seen the people that you know are there to support you because they're buying the accessories, they're continuing to show up in support of you. Once you have some retreats going and you've gone really deep with some people, you've gone to events, people have started to see you in person, they feel you, they know how you show up, they know how you show up in community. That's when selling someone a package, when they are really investing in spending a large chunk of money or a large chunk of time with you, that's when it's a no-brainer. And you've built the confidence, you've built the skills, and you've built the trust, and your customers are going to feel that. And yeah, I'm curious if anything else, Phoenix, if you have anything else you want to add, or if anybody has chimed in. I'm still curious what everyone's like base business is, because mine did start with yoga and has moved more into events and retreats and coaching and helping other people with retreats. But I love hearing where you guys are at too. So hashtag replay if you're sharing it in the replay as well.
Totally. Yeah, it's been a quiet group, even though I know that they're here. So yeah, we'd love to know your foundational business. If you have questions, what piece of these are really resonating? And I just wanted to offer on the theme of services that if you apply for Rainbow Warrior in the next 24 hours and decide to join, we'll give you $1,000 discount. So you have 24 hours to apply. And I'm going to put the link in the comments right now to the landing page. You can read all about it there. The application is right there. Yeah. And if you book that discovery call, fill out your application in the next 24 hours, time sensitive, we'll take that $1,000 off.
Awesome.
Just to play along with what Venus is sharing.
I know. I love that. I love that. And, one of the things that is kind of fun that we can do right now is kind of weave in, how does this apply to Rainbow Warrior, to the training that Phoenix and I are going to be starting in the spring. There are 2 retreats. One is in Tulum and one is in Sedona. There's 6 months of group coaching and one-on-one coaching with both of us. And we both have very different skill sets that are very complementary. So it's nice to have kind of a dynamic duo. But, Rainbow Warrior is a modalities-based training. And so there's many different modalities involved in this. So where are you in this flow? Write in the comments if you are, what are you most interested? What is it that you have yet to implement in your company, in your business, that you would like to? Because we're going to be touching on a lot of these in the Rainbow Warrior program. And if you have some services that you offer, when you come through this program, you're going to have even more services that you can offer that can help you build out those custom one-on-one experiences, those custom retreat experiences. At Rainbow Warrior, one of the modalities that we added in is I host ecstatic dances. When I travel, I host ecstatic dances when I travel. It's so amazing to go down to Mexico and host a couple classes. And so I've written out a whole formula of how to start hosting an ecstatic dance, or how to reach out to venues and host an ecstatic dance while you're traveling. So that's one of the modalities that fits in with the events. And you'll be taking tons of workshops from us, getting lots of experience in all of those areas, and learning a lot of modalities that you can add into your services.
Totally. And I just want to share what somebody wrote in the comments, just if we want to, orient to solutions, perhaps. It's just,
Yeah.
I'm rather lost. I have been for years. I know I'm a healer and performer priestess, but I've really struggled to get out of dead end cleaning jobs and other lame stuff locally. Yeah, I know the feeling, right? When I started my energy business for years prior, I wanted to say that I was an energy healer, but I was doing all this other stuff that wasn't that. And I noticed that I felt a lot of shame every time somebody asked me what I did, and I responded with something other than what spirit was telling me to do. I was terrified of failing, terrified of, yeah, trying it on and not having it work. And I still have that, because this is my soul creation. It would hurt really badly if it didn't work, and it hurts really badly when it doesn't work. And so I really get that sometimes stepping into the soul's calling is a leap of faith, and it's a huge risk, and it's not really for the faint of spirit. And it is so worth it to create a life of your design. It is so worth it to show up in your power in that way, and to choose intentionally what you're going to weave and call in and create. It takes strength, it takes courage, it takes a resourceful mind and way of operating, but it's possible. Honestly, to not live that soul's calling for me is a form of death. It's staying stuck to a system that's not actually aligned with what I've incarnated to do. So, and also it's hard because if you aren't making enough money to pay the bills in your soulpreneur journey, right? You have to figure something out. Survival is a real thing for so many of us in this economy where rent is high and food is high and everything costs money, including Rainbow Warrior. Um, and it can feel really stressful and overwhelming. So I'm curious what you would have to say, Venus, and we have more people sharing what they've
Yeah.
been working on too after we maybe talk about this one.
Great. Yeah. Can you repeat what this one said about, I know I am a something priestess?
A healer, performer,
A
priestess.
healer, performer, priestess. Okay. Yeah. When I tune into this,
Hold on, I hike with these headphones and I've never had an issue, but for some reason, so I need to change my audio settings so that I can get out of this. Give me just one moment. You can talk and I'm just going
okay,
to change.
I'll talk. Yeah. So when I really tune into this, I think back to when I was just not making enough money teaching yoga, even though it was what I wanted to do. And it sounds like, maybe you're not making enough money and you're not even doing what you want to do, or you're not making enough money in what you want to do. So you're taking these other gigs. And I think it comes back to devotion, because when I was first getting started, yoga festivals, they don't pay anything to go there, or music festivals. They don't pay, and they give you a free ticket, but then I'm spending all of this money to get there. And I know I'm doing it for the exposure, but it's like I'm missing work to get there. And I was just stuck in this loop of feeling so stressed out about it. And then I really stopped and looked at this list. Like, if I'm going for exposure, then what am I then selling afterwards? Oh, I have this workshop coming up. Oh, I have this retreat coming up. Oh, I have this event coming up. Oh, I have this subscription service. Oh, I have this ability to do coaching. And having something at every price point and knowing that maybe I wasn't getting paid to do it, but I was doing what I loved. I was showing up as my priestess on the main stage at Sonic Bloom and a tutu and like crazy fishnet stockings. And I was really going for it, even though it wasn't paying the bills yet. And that was my devotion to that as my life's path. And I still nannied on the side and I figured it out. But over the years, trusting that people will grow with me, it has now gotten to the point where I get flown all around the world to lead opening ceremonies at parties and events, and I'm making good money doing it. But I needed to just kind of do it until it was really embodied in me, and I had no problem telling someone that I needed my hotel to be covered, a rental car, and this is my rate, right? But I couldn't really start there. And I think a lot of people want to go from I'm not making money doing what I love because I'm not really doing it to I'm on a stage in front of 10,000 people. And I do believe in quantum leaps, but I think it's more like step, leap, step, leap, rather than like just one big, huge leap. I'm super open to being proven wrong there. But I feel like there are these steps in between to just show up and do it. And this is where you can ask for support from someone who has done it before, because there's so much support for people to help you creatively brainstorm and to pump you up and tell you you can do it, and tell you that I have charged those prices for that. And so that's why I know you can. And sometimes you just need to know that it's possible that someone else has done it. So hopefully that helps.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I would have technical issues. And she also did say, that she has these cyclical addictions that keep her frequency at a place. Let's see, I'm not reading it exactly. It's a lack of confidence in myself and also my bad habits, cyclical addictions, which keep my frequency where it is basically what she's saying. And yeah, I want to speak to addiction because it's a very real part of my past. I was a super addict, still have a very addictive personality, and I spent years squandering my life force energy and my empress creation powers on substance abuse. I can't tell you how many hours a day I smoked or rolled spliffs or loaded a bong or a dab pen, right? When I could have been investing all of that time, energy, and creativity into my business. Honestly, when I became sober, I was around 28, 29, and because I had to. And looking back, I was like, wow, that was a lot of time that I spent being small and distracting myself and taking away from my life force energy, right? And even 10 years, I'm not 10 years past that. I feel like it's been 10 years. But even in the years past, I'm still recovering from those choices to damage my body, to damage my psyche, to damage my mind, to not take action back then. I am still recovering. Because when we abuse our bodies in that way through substances, it could be even food or TV addiction, right? We are creating damage to our vibration, and it takes a while to bounce back health-wise, mind-wise, psychologically. Those are the same things that, so if you're struggling with addiction of any kind, I recommend starting there.
Yeah.
Finding the resourcing. I don't believe that to heal addiction, you have to get sober. I believe that healing addiction comes through connection, right? And of course, for some of us, we need to get sober because the substance is keeping us, it's locked down. And Venus and I, we're going to teach exorcism work and spirit integration work through Rainbow Warrior. And addictions are the holes that allow these beings to take control of our bodies and our mind space. And that can be a really real side effect of substance use. You're actually inviting in foreign energies to dominate you, to control you, whether it's your own thought form or some actual being that is like, ooh, a hole. I'm gonna get in there and inhabit that empty place. So it can be really dangerous in so many ways to continue down that cyclical addiction path, right? So if that's you, if you're stuck in a cycle, that's the place you need to start, right there.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've noticed with addiction is a lot of times the addictions are triggered by the cycles in your life, right? And so I really love making a huge change in some way in order to, it's like, change your life, change your environment in some way to reflect this interchange of working on the addiction. So, if you can, in whatever way speaks to you. For me, when I really needed to get out of like an addictive, abusive relationship, I went and did my yoga teacher training in Nepal. And it was like I had a whole new routine, all new friends, a different skyline, totally different food. And it was a lot easier for me to do that than if I was still living with the guy smoking the bongs all day, and another really amazing experience that I had was when I did join that $20,000 coaching program. It was required to be sober, 100% sober the entire time. And like, I don't think I have struggled with substance addictions. I think they've come in different ways in my life. So it was really easy for me to step away from the substances. But what I realized is I'd never actually been like off of everything, including caffeine and like, you know, caffeine was the big one that just felt so socially acceptable. And I've been able to reintegrate some of these things into my life in different ways, but it was taking that course and being with that group of people and studying that program that gave me like a container to try it out in. And it was like doing the yoga teacher training that gave me a container. So if you can find a container, whether it's Rainbow Warrior or something else, that's really going to support you in giving yourself X amount of time to explore a new way of being, rather than just, I just need to be different forever, can feel kind of overwhelming. And then having the support of people around you that know that you're on the journey.
Totally. Yeah, I moved to Pachamama in Costa Rica for 6 months just for a change, and my life did shift. Even though they're a plant medicine community, I got so sober and I ate so clean and I just hung out with the earth. And that enabled me to really step out of some of those addictive patterns, leading to today where I'm completely sober, except for trace amounts of sugar, which I'm currently working on. And I sadly cannot drink caffeine anymore because it gives me a headache. I'm bummed about that one. But in reality, it's not that supportive. It gives
Yeah.
me a headache, and it had been, and I just wasn't present to it until I completely took it out and started to add it back in. So addiction is a tough one. And usually addiction is there for a good reason. I use my addiction to feel more connected to God. I use my addiction so that I have transcendental experiences. I use addiction as pain relief, right? There's always a good reason for the addiction to be there, but we really need to get to the core of why it's there and create the connection there and establish new pathways, which we can't always do if we're staying in the same situations, like Mina said.
Yeah.
Somebody else said something that was really near and dear to my heart, so I just want to share hers. She said, I keep being ready, and then I get sent on a new spiritual development type mission or advancements or ascension or shadow work, and I'm starting to question being in business. And this one was really resonant with me because that is felt like my journey. I chose the name Phoenix Rose because I was going through these death and rebirth cycles every few years in a really major way. And I chose Rose not only for my Magdalene lineage, but because I wanted to be beyond to the rising. I wanted to be the Phoenix who rose already and wasn't in the rising process. But currently I'm in a rising process and I couldn't escape it. And yeah, for those of us that are on this accelerated healing leadership journey on the planet, we do have these soul initiations and journeys that we've chosen to undertake in this lifetime. And yeah, it can be really distracting, disorienting, destructive to the ego and the whole life sometimes, right? Because if your life is built around something that is false, it will come crumbling down. Or if you become more aligned to something else, right? The other life that you've been living has to crumble to make way for the new. I often say that sometimes good things fall apart so that great things can fall into place. And I can't tell you how many times I've lived that birth and death and cycle over and over again, and how excruciating it can be too to say goodbye to everything that you loved and were attached to in this old way of being
for this new spiritual or even physical invitation. Mine's been a descending process of actually coming out of spirit, coming out of the clouds, and really inhabiting my body on earth. And to feel the physical sensations of being alive, right, has been so uncomfortable for me. It's been so uncomfortable. And especially add in extrasensory perception to the mix, right? Everything is just extra. And in reality, like, I'm still here for a reason. I too still have bills to pay. Like, I could let it all crumble and I know that I would be fine because I have people that love me, but that's not fully what I'm here for. There is a falling apart, the ego death that needs to occur so the new can come up. And sometimes this journey is like being that flower that grows through the cement, and that's why you're experiencing the difficulty. And I know for me, I've quit my business like I was quitting once a week for a while. It's like, I'm out, I'm done, it's too complicated, it hurts. And when I really tune into my truth, the actual perseverance and the resourcefulness and the devotion keeps me hanging on, sometimes by a thread.
Yeah. Something else I'd like to add, that I have a little question if this person is still around to answer it, is well, I'll express what I'm feeling, and then you can say if it resonates for you or not. But something that I've noticed is that a lot of times I will have a creation that really wants to be birthed, and I'm like getting ready to be ready. And then something happens, right? And it's almost like that version of my business is no longer relevant because I dreamed it so long ago. And so I've noticed that if I have more confidence in whatever it is that I'm putting out there, just putting it out there exactly as it is and as I am now, instead of trying to be ready to do it at a later time, it hits really current to the time. And then when things fall apart and things shift, that is likely pointing you towards your next version of that creation, right? And I encourage people not to compartmentalize so much, where it's like, oh, I can't launch this because I'm having trouble in my relationship or whatever. Likely whatever the challenges or the personal growth or spiritual growth that you're going through in your life, that is actually pointing you towards how you can even more effectively connect to your audience and sell your business through that. You know, one of the like one-liners that I got from a coach that I was watching was, she said, write this down: no one would ever buy from me if they knew blank. And then go ahead and shift it so that it's like, when I share, people are going to buy from me because I shared about blank. And figure out what reality you sharing about your challenges, your ascension, your personal growth, in what reality will you sharing about that actually align you to the people that are in it with you and want to be in it with you through your business. So I'm curious if that resonates.
It definitely resonates with me. I did share in the shamanic portal, that I recently got a Graves' disease diagnosis, but I've been noticing that I'm so scared to share it publicly, even though I'm usually pretty transparent online, because I have a fear that no one would buy from me if they knew that I've been in this health crisis and how excruciating it's been. And so, yeah, I was like, ooh, this is my tender moment. This is the thing that I haven't been fully sharing because I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of my next steps in my business is I would love to do relationship work and do retreats specifically for couples to work through what it is they need to work through and to make agreements based on that work, rather than having this like, are we going to stay together? Are we not? And I want a commitment, but like forever feels like a long time. There's so much. And like, how can I create a container where people can come together and like do this work and create smaller commitments and smaller timeframes? And this is something Phoenix and I both relate to in our in our partnerships. But I've often felt like I'm not ready to hold space for relationships because my partner and I are still working some stuff out and still have some stuff that's up. And when I heard this line the other day, I was like, oh, I bet if I shared about what my partner and I have been going through and all the different things we've tried, that would actually make us seem more, and that actually does make us be more credible to hold space for other couples. And so that's an important shift that you can make to get out of that ready to be ready cycle.
Yeah, just as a soul play invitation, and I will eat my own medicine. I invite you to tune into these two questions, or the reframe and the question, and make a Facebook post about that thing that you don't want people to know, from that, like, you wouldn't buy from me if, and the flipped perspective, you're going to buy from me because I'm actually sharing vulnerably from my heart this thing that I didn't want to share. I'll do it. You can tune in for my post.
Yes.
I think this is a great edge for me because this is specifically where I haven't been sharing fully.
Yeah.
Mhm. Beautiful. Thanks for your participation here. Definitely some more voices came in.
Amazing.
Thanks for sharing what you're up to in your businesses a little bit too, and some of the challenges. It's helpful for us.
Yeah, if there's anything in the comments that we want to touch on, I'm open to more commentary in that way and feedback.
I'm checking.
Great. It's funny to not, I can't look. I'm just like, tell me what you see.
There's not specifically any, questions or things like
Okay,
that.
cool.
Just some sweet engagement.
Great.
Mhm.
Well, I look forward to engaging with you guys when I am on the other side of the screen. That's something that Phoenix is really passionate about, is engagement. And she's really teaching me how important it is to engage with the people that you support. And this kind of fits right in with what we were talking about, is that as you're building these relationships with people through your workshops and your accessories and your retreats and your events and your services, it's just like any other relationship. Like, you are there to coach people on how they can support you and how they can be supported by you. So you are there to coach them on what it is that you have to offer. And you're also there to coach them on what it is that you need to receive, whether it's monetarily, or I need to receive 3 words on my posts because that helps the algorithm, right? And it is a relationship. When you're doing, Phoenix does the online mastery, I'm more in-person mastery, but it's the same thing. We're building relationships, we're nurturing relationships, and we're putting ourselves out there. This is who I am, this is what I do, this is how you can buy from me, and this is how you can support me in other ways. And trusting that the people who are tuning in, who are watching your stories, who are clicking on things, who are showing up to your events, they want to know how they can purchase what you have to sell, and they want to know how they can support you in other ways. So keep that in mind. So if we don't have any other questions, I'm just going to check my notes and make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, so I do have a couple more things to add, and then Phoenix, do you want to do the shamanic piece at the end? Okay, great. So a couple last little tidbits. One is always share in your excitement. So this is something that I have learned from promoting events, grassroots promoting events online, mostly on Facebook for the past 10 years, is if I am ever in a funky mood and I'm sharing just because it's on my to-do list, I get 0 engagement. But if I am barely thinking about it and I'm using talk to text and I'm walking down the road and I'm like, I'm so excited for this event on Saturday, get your tickets, we've only got 2 left, woot, woot, and I like hit send, everybody sees it. And so always sharing in your excitement is a big part of doing this in-person stuff, because after the event, after the workshop, after the retreat, after the service, using your online platforms as a way to share in your excitement and just as a way to send thank you notes. This is something that I'm trying to get better at, with permission, of course. But when I have a client that has come to me for a healing session, sometimes I'll ask them to write me a testimonial. If they're like going on and on about how great of an experience it is, I'll ask them to write me a testimonial and I'll share it right away. Sometimes if that doesn't feel resonant, or if they've already written me one, I'll ask if I can share about our session, anonymously, and maybe I'll share a lesson that came through. And then sometimes it's just me in my yoga room with my post massage glow from giving, and I just take a picture and share, and I just say, I just had the most beautiful session with the sister. And sharing in those moments is really important. If you've never read Big Magic, I would highly recommend it. It's an amazing book about the creative process. And this actually ties in a little bit with what I was saying about the getting ready to be ready, is sometimes like if we have these creations that we're holding on to for a little bit too long, they go to someone else. And this book talks about creations as an entity that wants to be birthed through you. And if you're not birthing it, it might go somewhere else. So that's one of the things that Big Magic touches on. But yeah, just sharing in your excitement, taking a picture, using online thank you notes, tagging people when you're sharing pictures of events is a great way to cross-pollinate. Cross-pollinate is like a term and a phrase that I use a lot when I'm sharing about this. After this call is a great time for any one of us to make a post about this experience. And because people want to see that you're still learning and you're still growing. When you make a post and make a share that you just took an online business course, even if you're a business coach, that's one of those things that people are going to admire you, that you're constantly growing and learning as well. And so sharing and cross-pollinating and tagging, that was like a side note that I made here. And I really am considering my online space as a place to post like online love letters and thank you notes to my clients and my friends and the people who have come on retreats in the past. And it's like I said, it's something that I'm trying to get better at. And it's a new way of looking at it for me. And so I'll let you know how it goes, but I have a feeling that it's going to be a new part of what I do and what I teach. Cause that's those of us in the spiritual entrepreneurship world, that's how it goes. We do and then teach, and then do and then teach, and then do and then teach. So don't feel like you have to know everything. Start where you are, trust that your clients and your customers will grow with you, and keep showing up to stuff like this to learn new things and to expand the way you think about things, and know that it is a journey, not a destination. I have one client that I see regularly, and she keeps talking about like, what if her business is a failure? And I just was like, babe, are you going to do it for the rest of your life? Are you going to be a medicine woman doing amazing events and retreats for the rest, and astrology readings for the rest of your life? Like, are you ever going to stop? And she said, no. And I'm like, then it can never fail. It can only evolve if you're going to just keep doing it because you love doing it. It's not like this product that you get to look at and say, give it a grade. It's just a continuous evolution of your offering yourself to the world. And what does that mean? So I think that's it for what I had planned for you guys today. I love doing, manifestation sessions with people. I love helping people look at all their different interests and offerings and packages and everything they've ever dreamed, and figuring out how to get it into something more concise. Phoenix has so many magical tips and tricks and tidbits from her years as an online spiritual and in-person spiritual entrepreneur. And so we're resources for you. We would love to get to know you more. If you're interested in our work individually or collectively, the Rainbow Warrior program is coming up, and it was like one of the favorite things that I've done in the past 2 years, being in a 6-month container with the same small group of people with 2 luxury retreats, and just constantly touching in and being there for each other, and that camaraderie and everything that we learned. It was so magical. And I'm so excited to see who of you will be joining us in this next round.
Yeah, I really second that excitement. It was also, I had like I said, last year was excruciating for me. I went through so much, like you, Christina Marie, soul initiation after soul initiation, and Rainbow Warrior was the highlight. It was the only highlight of the last year because I was going through so much. But it was worth it. I remember being at the Mexico retreat and sitting there and being like, oh, this is why I went through everything that I did so that I could be sitting here right now. Because yeah, it was extra special. It was really potent. We were doing high level magic and healing work with each other in luxury settings, really being treated like queens and kings, and it was so good. And I will just say, we pushed the next round is going to start in February. So we created a little bit more space around the beginning because that was what was being spoken in the application call. So for those of you that were like, I can't do it right now, there's a little bit more space. And maybe that spaciousness is the thing that you needed also to be a yes. So just know that we created that. We're starting in February. However, again, if you're ready to go now or in the next 24 hours, right, you're going to get a lot of bonus opportunities to work with us in advance and also have that discount. So just feel into it. If you're feeling that pulse of life, doesn't hurt to look at the landing page, read about it, have that visual experience for yourself. And hashtag replay if you have questions.
That's the only way we'll see them.
The only way we'll see them. Dropped my mic. And thank you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and thank you for those of you that hopped on live tonight. And I see a few of you that have been here the entire time. It really means a lot. It's not a short chunk of time. So the fact that you stayed is really extra special and meaningful to us. And so again, big gratitude.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yesterday, Phoenix was guiding most of the call and giving us a lot of her knowledge and information and inspiration. And I led us through a Heal Your Business visualization that was a Ho'oponopono practice. If you're not sure what that is, you can tune in. But if you haven't watched the video from yesterday, that was a short but really juicy shamanic visualization that came through that I plan on doing often. So definitely check that out. And Phoenix is going to take it from here to lead us through our shamanic experience for today. And yeah, I'm excited to actually just receive now.
Yeah, going to do a short and sweet, another connection practice with the business. So of course, Rainbow Warrior is shamanic, and how Venus and I operate is very in the esoteric realms of listening and giving from that place. And so the deeper we can connect with our business as the entity and being that it is, right, the more successful we'll become. So we're going to travel again, have some connection time with our business and see what comes. So you might want to have something where you can take notes on your computer or a pen and paper, and definitely get somewhere where you can either sit upright or, probably sit upright for this one if you can sit cross-legged, because you're going to sit with your business in this visualization, or up on a chair would be great too. And of course, you can always move your astral body wherever you need your astral body to be if you want to lay down. Everything is great. Yeah. So wherever you're at, closing your eyes and beginning to take some deep breaths. I've been enjoying this breathing from the root chakra to the top of the head and back down the spinal column. So breathing up as you inhale Exhaling down that central channel, spinal column into the root. And just keep breathing like this from the base of your spine to the top of your head and back down again. And feeling your body relax, surrender, soften, open, turn receptive. And just see if you can surrender and deepen inside your body a little bit more. Now you're going to visualize yourself sitting cross-legged or on a chair facing the being that is your business. So again, like last night, it may be an energy, a color, it may actually have a form, but just begin to face your business as you sit, taking in this energy, this being, this friend of yours, right? And just like you have so many assets and skills, so does your business. So opening that third eye and just looking in front of you at your business and breathing together. And just notice the qualities of your business, the qualities of this being's energetic signature and presence. And yesterday we did the Ho'oponopono, so just noticing if there's places that still look or feel wounded as you face this being. And we're going to take a moment to just invite in that practice. We're going to go quicker today than we did yesterday, and you can just repeat in your mind's eye as you look at your business. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And take another deep inhale and exhale, syncing your breath up with the breath of your business. And we're going to have a little business puja inquiry session. It's going to be short and sweet, just one question for each of you. And so as you look at your business, you're going to ask it, what do you want to create with me? What do you want to create with me? And now you're going to wait for your business to respond. And then thanking your business for everything that it shared. Of course, you can always come back to this place, this inquiry. Maybe you received visions or words, impressions, an energetic signature, whatever your way of receiving was. We just acknowledged that something came. And now I want you to sit in front of your business as your business asks you, what do you want to create with me? And you can share with your business what you want to create with it. And then beginning to slow or complete your share, just tuning into how much of what you want to create with each other was the same, and were there differences between your share and your business's share. And just noticing, being aware. Now I want you to visualize you and your business standing up, still facing one another. And you can bow or offer each other some thanks. And then I want you to just invite your business to walk into you as you become one energy, welcoming it inside you, letting your business fill you up from your head to your toes, as if it were a shadow coming home. Fusing together, ending any and all degrees of separation as you become one unit, one collective energy. And then bringing your awareness to your heart center. And from there, you can open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, come back to this room, space, place. And if you feel like sharing what you or your business want to create together, we would love to know.
I have multiple businesses, and so I did this one with the newest business, which is the sacred sensual parties that I've been throwing. And I realized that we actually want different things. Like these parties, they just want to be. They want to be the parties. And I realized that I was wanting these parties to like support me in my life and in my home and my family and my lifestyle. And so I think that there's some negotiation that gets to happen on our next sit.
Yeah, whereas mine was, both parts were pretty similar. There was some slight variations, but it was nice to feel that we wanted the same thing from one another, and we were pretty coherent in that way. So I really appreciated that piece. Yeah. And I just did my business, everything inside my businesses as a whole umbrella. It's like, it's really big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, loves, for being here. There's lots of notes in the comments, including links to Rainbow Warrior on the landing page. So check them out. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out. Like Venus said, if Rainbow Warrior is not for you, but you still want some support, or both individually available to support you in whatever ways, many ways, in the ways that we can. So it doesn't have to be just Rainbow Warrior. That's just one of our services. And yeah. And stay tuned. We'll be pumping out some more content as we gear up for this next round, and just letting you feel us and see us and sharing our codes a little bit more. We just appreciate you being here tonight, taking the time.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. I'm excited to pop in the comments when I can and see who all that I've been talking to. And thank you, Phoenix, for hosting the Zoom, and for putting Rainbow Warrior together, and for bringing me in this way. It feels really good to be creating with you. And yeah, I'm super happy right now. It's now is the time where I should be definitely making a post. Cheesing.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Bye for
Thank you
now,
so
loves.
much. Good night.